Hello. We are now going to see some concepts of socket programming and how practically we can program a socket. You are now with J.PIERRE Rutarindwa. Network programming refers to writing programs that execute across multiple devices. Now, for devices to communicate to one another on a network, it means there are software applications which are now facilitating them to do so. So computer network programming is now about writing computer programs that enable processes to communicate with each other across a computer network. Now, Java provides packages that contain a collection of classes and interfaces which provide the row-level communication details, which now will allow us to write programs that focus on solving the problem at hand. For computers to communicate to one another on a network, they do communicate through sockets. Now, sockets provide the communication mechanism between two or more computers using TCP protocol. A socket is an internal endpoint for sending or receiving data within a node on a computer network. So a package called java.net.socket class represents a socket, and java.net.server socket class provides a mechanism for the server program to listen for clients and establish connections with them. This diagram here describes how connection will be established. On network, some nodes will be acting as clients, others will be acting as servers. Now, we shall create sockets at both sides, and at each socket, the socket port number, even at server side, we shall do the same. The client will send the request server, and once the server resends the request from the client, the server now will send back the accept method to the client. Now, the establishment of connection has already there. Now, communication between these two ends can now start. After that, once you open a socket, you have to close it. We will show how to program sockets in Java using the TCP/IP protocol only, since it is more widely used than UDP. To open a socket at client side, we write socket, we leave space, we put socket name. This is the name taken randomly, you can pick any, equal to new socket. In bracket we specify the machine name and the port number, where the machine name is the machine we are trying to open a connection to. For example, a server, it depends. You can use the machine name or you use the IP address. The port number, it is just the port number on which the server we are trying to connect to is running. When we are opening a socket at server side, we use server socket, then we leave space, server socket name, then new server socket, then we only specify the port number. At server side, we specify only the socket, the port number. At client side, we only specify the machine name and the port number. Now, when implementing a server, we also need to create a socket object from the server socket in order to listen for and accept connections from the client. That's why we are saying service socket equal to my service dot accept. If the server does not provide this, it means communication between the client and the server will not be possible. Now we need to specify either the client or the server will accept information. To do so, we create data input stream. For instance, at client side, for the client server to client side or device to receive information from the server. That's why we say data input stream, input equal to new data input stream. Then you specify my client dot get input stream. Remember, this my client is the client socket name. On the client side, we can also specify if the client will, for instance, send information to the server. It means we need to use data output stream or we use print stream. Then on the server side, we can specify if the server will receive information or if it will send information. If it will send, we need to use print stream or data output stream. Here, we need to know how to close sockets. Once we have opened sockets, we have to know how to close them. Now, what we have to know before closing sockets is that we have to close our data output stream and data input stream before we close the socket. On the client side, we use output.close to close data output stream, input.close to close input stream, my client.close to close the socket. We do the same at server side. Now, before we go to practicals, we need to go to something here. To practice, we have what you can understand here. What we have to have in mind is that if we need to learn our codes, we need to know that at both sides, either server side and client side, we need to create sockets. Secondly, we need to specify the port number. We need to specify the port number that the client and the server will be using. But here, remember, we are not allowed to manually take the port number between 0 and 1024, because we said the port number between 0 and 1024, they are reserved for specific purposes, so we are not supposed to use them. After that,